1.7 going out at our cap, because if not, if we go lower, then it hurts next year, which is already going to be stressful. So we need to go out here, because next year is going to be even a worse year, which I'm not sure, but I think you saw, or I let you know that although we've done a good job over the last 2 years, we're not out of the woods yet. We need to stay the course, do the right things fiscally, and I'm confident that over the next couple of years, we're going to be right back to where we should be financially. I realize that the community is going to be difficult about this, but I'm depending on you to know what's happening here and support this.
In your breakdown, I was astonished at the student enrollment. Dwindling.
It is dwindling. Of course, the last one that I saw for Herkimer County, only 2 schools had an increase in population, and that was less than 10 kids. We had about 950 when I was here 10 years ago. So you can see just how many we've gone down. We're about 800, maybe just a little bit less.
Well, to me, I equate it to revenue.
Exactly.
Because those students aren't here, so the parents aren't here to take up that margin that we need, that buffer of safety we need in our fund balance.
Yes.
I also talked to Cindy Sherwood today for a few minutes about fund balance. And I wanted to ask her the question of how many other school districts and components of both these organizations go over a 4% fund balance. She wasn't sure exactly how many do.
To save that much, you mean? Or to use more than 4?
To use more than 4% for their fund balance benchmark. And she says that they're, as far as she knows, that I gotta get that exact number. I'd like to know. Out of the 10 school districts that we are associated with, how many really have like 6%? She said down the state it did decide to need to go to 6%.
Well, they turned it down for now. They're between the 2 houses of the New York State government. One wants the governor to bring it to 6. The other one wants to go to 8. So because of those 2 numbers, they're arguing about it and never settled when the budget was passed. So currently, we still have to stay at 4. I'm hoping it goes up because it makes things easier.
Yes.
As we did this year, we will be doing whatever you come up with extra this year. When the audit is done this summer, we'll be filling reserves to stay at the 4% mark. You remember last year, because we were threatened to lose 20%, we stayed above the number and said, okay, slap me on the wrist, but we're going to keep the money available in case you cut us. We'll still have enough money to do the school year. As it is right now, because we're not obviously full, last year we were closed from March to the end of June. It helped. This year, although we're in school all year long, we still have not spent what was budgeted. So we should have another good piece of this year's budget left over, which you'll notice, we just put $1.4 million or whatever from that fund balance we had into 2 reserves. Right. What is that going to do for us? At some point when we go out for a capital project, we should have enough money in that reserve to cover our local taxpayers' share of any project that we go out on. We can't go for any right now, but that's why it's important to put the money away now so we got it for later. Sometimes the community does not understand that. The other thing is the transportation one, which to me is the most important one, because we get new buses every year. And we've had to pay bonds and the lawyers to set up the bonds to purchase these buses. And with the money that we have in that transportation reserve now, we should be able to decide to buy a bus, pay cash for it, and then replace the reserve later, once the school's budgets get taken over. So we should save an enormous amount of money in interest, plus lawyer fees and bond fees and everything else. So again, that's an important piece to have in your arsenal of reserves that are sitting there. And we're starting to get back to where we were, but as I said to our staff, we're not out of the woods yet. We still have a ways to go. If we stay with our philosophy and our principles, we'll be back. It's just we have to stay with what we're doing and do things correctly.
I agree. My concern down the line, looking in the outfield, not, just over the pictures now, is the fact that DRS, teachers' salary increases are going to bring us to a point, and I would like to have someone work up the data on that. As to how far down the line we've got before that is going to kick us right. Because our revenues are staying. I mean, you're not going to get much more out of the state. You're not going to get a lot more out of the community to make up the balance of what we need. Is there a projection that we can make down the line to say, look, in 20, or is that impossible?
We do 5 years.
Okay.
So 5 years out, which includes the entire budget. So that includes DRS rates. Rick Tins gives me the data to plug in for DRS, what it's looking like from now to down through 5 years. And we plug that all in, so those increases show based on the salaries that we have in the budget as of today. So we do have projections out, but those projections will always change day by day, depending on things that change in the district. Because you mentioned it earlier, enrollment, if more kids come, that'll change your expenses. I have the sheet, and you're more than welcome to sit down. I printed it out, and we can go over it. Basically, the difference, revenue to expenditure, so the whole revenue budget to the whole expenditure budget, you have about a $500,000 additional needed to offset that revenue and expenses next year, and then about just under that for the remaining years looking forward. So projections aren't always the best thing to look at, because I guess Mr. Krieg and I were talking about it today. Budget to budget, a lot changes. So year to year, as we're working on this budget, I mean, especially in the last 3 years that I've been sitting in the spot, we went from having no money to all of a sudden having 2 stimulus packages passed, and we have a certain amount of years to spend that in. So, last year we were afraid of 20% cuts midway through the year, and now they're telling us that we're going to get an extra $4 million that we have to spend in 2 years. Just in a matter of days, things change.
Well, when I first started here, we had a pre-K program that we could afford to implement. And as time went on, we lost the revenue for that, so we lost that. What I don't want to see us do is get into a situation and say, wow, we got all this money, let's give it to all these programs, let's do all this stuff that we always want to do, which is fine with me. That's what the board wants, it's fine. But I don't want a situation where we're giving people something they've always wanted and the board always wanted. I love the pre-K. But if we find out, once that $4 million is gone, like we had $6 million at one time, gone, and now we're cutting staff, we're cutting programs, cutting everything to get back to it. It's like a sine curve. You go up with a high peak, and you come down with a low peak. I want to see something where we can level off, so we don't have a sine curve. We have a level where everybody is, consistent. Is that possible, or am I?
Yeah.
No, it's not impossible. That's why I said if we have a certain idea of where we're going, and we have a certain amount of money to get us there. And you're right, at some point, if we don't have the money for the program, we shouldn't be running the program. In this particular case, the board has asked about pre-K now for quite a while. Well, this year we're now eligible for pre-K money again. So I don't believe that we're not going to have one. And according to the paperwork I saw, we're eligible for up to 22 students. Now, that's if we went full-time. Depending on the number to come in, if it's a large number, maybe you go 2 half-day programs where you could hold up to 44 kids. Plus, we still have the BOCES program. So that's one program coming back that we should now continue to get. And if that money goes away like it did at one point, but you kept running the program, it doesn't take long before it bleeds everything out of your fund balance. So we should be having pre-K coming back, but that's because we are going to receive the money. As far as all these other things, we're doing what we can in there. We have to be careful. I've made every time a staff, one of our principals has asked me for something, they have to go through bloody hell to prove to me that we need it. And once they do, if it's good for kids, then we're going to try to do that. But we do right now have some grant monies coming. We don't know what we can spend the money on yet. We just know that we're getting it. And so that's the good part. I can project, I've told them as we sit, with everything that I can see, I believe we're going to start seeing the fact that part of that money can be spent on air purification. Whether we have COVID or not, that's not a bad thing for our kids in our classrooms. So I do see that as something that's coming, and so we may be able to work that into whether it's an energy performance contract or filling in with what we're doing on this $1 million project that we're doing for the helilators, et cetera, up in the front. So that's one thing I see coming. The other thing that I'm seeing coming is they want all school districts to try to help our kids catch up because of what they've lost. So we're planning right now, how do we come up with a full-blown summer program this year with transportation and food and everything, because our kids deserve that. And that's going to be part of what these grants are all about. So at least for the next couple of years, we should be able to have the money from the grants to pay for it. What happens down the road, we can't predict that yet. But I know it's going to be tight. So that's where we are right now. We've got money coming, but we don't know what we can spend it on yet. As soon as we do, I will let you know.
And the best thing I can say, Mr. Schmidt, from my financial point of view, when it comes to those expenses and being grant funded, and I've said this to administration the entire time, yeah, we can have those programs back, but if they're grant funded, as soon as the grant goes away, so does the program.
That's my point.
So, and that'd be a discussion that we had when the grant went away and with the board to tell you guys, we no longer can fund this is a grant. And obviously we would have an open discussion about ending the program versus if we have the money in the general fund to support it.
I just want you to know that, it's great, you understand what you've done. I'm not trying to criticize this gunshot from like 2 years ago. I saw it.
I don't take it as a criticism because these are good questions that have to be asked. At least you know we've already been thinking about it. It's not just something that's new. It's all you're doing is helping to reinforce what it is we have to do to try to put Dolgeville back in financial shape. And so please don't ever feel bad about asking me a question about this.
I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for the whole board. Everyone in this board has a different point of view, which is great. But I'm just saying that I don't want to go through what we did 2 years ago, and it's not good. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The money just went.
Yeah. I'm not sure that the rest of the board, as I'm watching their heads go like that, that they don't disagree with you.
None of us are.
You can't see that because they're behind you right now.
That's why I'm pointing this question.
Any other questions? So all we're asking tonight is for you to approve a spending plan, which was the $18,967,328, and we'll go out at a tax levy increase of 3.7%.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Need to approve the property tax report card.
Provide.
You'll see there was a new one on your seat tonight.
So this is for just the numbers that include your 3.7% increase. So it shows your budgeted from this current school year versus the projected budget, which you guys just approved, and what those numbers look like. And then the actual fund balance and reserves versus the estimated, which would be after our audit is completed, and what we would estimate to have in our fund balance and reserve.
Yes, so you've got 790 down for student population in 2021, and also in 21-22, 790. Do we know that's for sure?
No.
You just have to have a number there, and then as enrollments come in, starting in September, then that number could go up, it could go down. We're certainly hoping it increases.
I think it
I
will.
would believe it will, just for the fact that if we get away from COVID, so that our parents will start sending the kids back to school. I mean, we have an enormous amount of kids who their parents, because of COVID, have decided to homeschool their children rather than send them here. So that's a number right there that we should, get back next year if we can get school back to where we are.
So we're not collecting from the kids that are staying home, is that what you're saying?
Right. The parents either have them here in school or they're homeschooling. Most of our homeschool students are kindergarten students, and they're not mandatory to be in school. So we're just hoping that the parents, that their thought process is that they're going to get over their fear going into September and get their children in first grade to start coming to school. They'll be behind, but at least we should be getting them.
I thought I saw a number from, Mrs. Christman, 67 kids possibly were pre-K?
For kindergarten.
Kindergarten, okay.
My rationale between the 790 is even if we have a drop in enrollment for other grades, we will be introducing a pre-K back, which is 22 students, so it should level out.
Thank you very much.
If there are no other questions, need a motion to approve the property tax report card. All in favor? Reports. Elementary building report. Mrs. Chrisman.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Just as a couple of highlights from the board report, one of the best pieces of news is the return of our remote learners and the full-time return of our kindergarten students. I'm a firm believer that anytime anyone is having a bad day, just take a glimpse into a kindergarten classroom. And ultimately to see so many more children in kindergarten, it has been amazing. I am so proud of our staff. Our kindergarten team has worked incredibly hard, tons of extra hours to prepare for the full-time return of their students, and the feedback overall has been extremely positive. So I'm very, very thankful to our staff, students, and families. Overall, the feedback from the community and parents and families has been very positive with the full-time return of our kindergarten classes. So I'm very proud of our K team for helping and assisting with that. Also, just as a couple of updates to clarify the numbers, the third bullet down is focusing on our registration for the upcoming 21-22 school year for kindergarten enrollment. Currently, we are at 58 total applicants, and that is including some of the applications that are pending for our incoming class. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And congratulations to Mrs. Levitt on her tenure.
I have just one question. That's 3 through 8 ELA testing is going to take place.
Yes.
Are we experiencing any difficulties with opting out?
We have fewer than 10 students currently that have opted out.
Thank you.
I did work with I met with our 3-8 instructional team, including our support specialists on Tuesday of last week, to discuss one of the things that I had proposed as a piece of the complex puzzle of the opt-out issue, as well as just collecting appropriate information or valid information for our students and their performance. I have many, many opinions about the assessments, but ultimately at the end of the day, we want to do what is best for our students. And one of the things that we discussed as a team was to implement benchmarks for any students that may be opting out, just so we have some comparable data pieces to look at.
Thank you.
So I know that you mentioned about getting everyone back, that it's always a conversation. Are we any closer to maybe more grades or?
That has been the question that has consumed my life. And I say that not really joking. Ultimately, I have many, many, many possible drafts of things. I've run into a lot of roadblocks, but at the same time, I'm not throwing down the towel because ultimately I know that our students need to be here. So, yes, not a clean plan at this point. We have, currently I typically have between 5 and 8 lunch monitors to assist with lunch, and quite honestly, that is one of the bigger obstacles. The elementary cafeteria, which currently only is being used by 5th and 6th grade, only can feed and seat 32 students at a time. So if that is the case, to feed over 400 students is going to quite literally take all day. The spacing is an issue. We're looking at many, many options, including expanding into other locations, physical spaces. Obviously, older children can carry their lunches much better than younger students, but staffing is a concern. Our staffing is an issue, and that is something that we're continuously looking at. I still have vacant positions for lunch monitors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Might have just one more question. You can get me up to speed, maybe I lost track of this, but did we get a licensed health professional you were looking for?
A mental health professional?
A licensed mental health professional?
Oh, that is currently posted. No, we have not.
Don't have it.
The posting is up through the month,
Okay.
so no.
Nobody's applied.
The last time I checked, we did not have a single applicant.
Can you keep us up? I
Absolutely.
think that's critically important to this era.
I absolutely agree with you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. High school building report, Mrs. Levitt.
Absolutely. In addition to my report, I did want to give an update on driver's ed. I've been working with we do have a certified driver's ed teacher who is willing to start a program for this summer. And the regulations for this summer would require that parents do some of the responsibility for taking the students out to drive. There are some COVID restrictions, but that might mean for our district we're able to service more that way this summer. So I had a meeting last week with New York State, the approver of the programs, working through some of the paperwork, and I should have an update next month if that's a go.
So we would just provide the classroom portion of driver's ed?
We would. One of the significant changes from our previous program is that we would charge students moving forward, and that's a piece that I'm looking to prorate that if the parents are providing quite a bit of the driving experience, then obviously that should be less than hopefully in the fall when some of those regulations might go away, that we'd be able to then provide the driving instruction, and that then the program would be a little bit more money for parents. Even at the current rates, I was kind of looking at, how much to charge for that program, what would be a fair amount. This would also count for the 5-hour course that currently families are spending $60 on. So I'm looking for a piece going, okay, if we're providing that and they were paying that anyway, then how much it would be worth for this summer.
I would ask the same question that I asked Mrs. Crispin about the high school side, through the challenges you're facing and getting everyone back.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working very, very much on some of the little scheduling bubbles. I think that that's the piece that we're just working through right now. I'm confident that we can work through, and we already have solved a lot of those bubbles. In terms of cafeteria space, what I'm doing is I'm splitting the A groups and the B groups so that, again, as Mrs. Crispin shared, high school students are able to carry their lunches back to their advisories, and so we're able then to provide cafeteria seating. The high school cafeteria through the construction project is quite a bit larger. I'm able to fit 63 in there without changing anything, and so at that point everybody else would eat in their advisories, and so yes, we are close.
And then one more question that I'm really afraid to ask, graduation. With the current guidelines that the state mentioned last week, do we think that will improve before the end of June, or is that what we have to work with?
So I am creating plans based on those restrictions. They are quite different than even 2 months ago. And one of the pieces, and I even had a call this evening from a senior parent asking, what about graduation? And I think we can really move forward with a solid plan as of June 1st. And as we look at that, I do have some plans in place. I will share one of the pieces that I'm very hesitant. I would like to design a plan that doesn't involve the vast amount of testing for our students and their families, because that is an unfair burden to watch their child cross the stage.
Thank you.
I have one question. By the way, congratulations on your tenure.
Thank you.
2 meetings ago, we had talked in depth about students in jeopardy. And then those numbers had come down as of the last board meeting. Are they still coming down?
I do have we just had our third quarter report card that just went out actually to the A group yesterday. And so based on that, we did have several seniors who are still in jeopardy that we're working with right now. A lot of decisions being made about where they might live or how they're going to recover some of that credit, or if they should postpone that graduation till August. So we're talking about single digits of students. It is still a low number, but yes, they are still there.
We also talked about underclassmen who were in jeopardy of failing. They were failing either one or more subjects. Are they doing better?
They are, and I'll share, like the hybrid learning model has really challenged students to do so much more independently. And many of our students are doing fantastic. We have, over 200 students receiving academic honors. But we do still have a significant group that this is a severe challenge to them. And so for that reason, that this is a difficult year for a lot of students. Because of that, we're talking about, building in that summer program. I would love to see if we have enough staffing to even enlarge that up to the 9th grade to really help address some of those pieces, especially in 9th grade. Those are now credit-bearing classes, and to fail a PE in 9th grade means then that you need that credit to walk the stage in 3 or 4 years. So.
And while I'm on the subject, Crystal, are there any elementary school kids that are in jeopardy of not making the grade and getting from one class to the next, third to fourth, and so on?
Retention at the elementary level is not something typically that I am in favor of, just because research suggests and proves that retention at the primary grades is not beneficial for students. There are some extreme situations where that is considered when students have long medical leaves and whatnot. But there are definitely students that we are concerned with.
I know you guys do the best you can, I'm not criticizing, I'm just concerned
You know, as are we.
that their finished product is not going to be.
Right, and I mean, in looking at it, particularly in your earlier years, it's very concerning when we have individual, or when we have students in the early primary grades where they are learning to read. And when you think about the instruction that was lost last year, compounded by the hybrid model, as I mentioned previously, I know the kids need to be in school. So that is the mission that we're all trying to achieve.
I know you're. Thank you.
I was wishing that we could just freeze the year and start all over. But then you figure some of those seniors should be 18, 19 years old before they even got out of high school. Well, hopefully, we can catch them up. That's,
It will be a challenge, but if any staff can do it.
No other questions? Thank you, Mrs. Levitt. We'll move on to Dean of Students Athletic Director, Mr. Zolkowski.
Hello. Only thing I have to add is dugout project is starting Thursday. Materials being delivered tomorrow. There was a slight delay on that due to some illness that was clarified and taken care of. Volleyball senior night tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. Other than that, we're just very busy.
Congratulations on your move to West Canada.
It's different. COVID, pandemic, sports are different.
I didn't catch up on your athletic scheduling.
Yeah.
So, how many more games are our football team going to play?
3.
3 more?
Yep.
How many games of volleyball?
12 and 9. 11 and 9. 11 and 9. Yep. 9's the JV. 11 for varsity. One team didn't have a JV team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Building grounds reports attached. Any questions we need to pass along on that?
One quick question.
Go for it.
Patch Roof Middle School,
Yeah,
any serious issues there? Is it just
it's ready. They're waiting till it rains and there's a little bit of puddle to make sure it's patched properly, but other than that,
something
mostly,
negative we gotta worry about?
yeah.
And
It's coming.
our track, is that going to be something that can be used for track and field or,
Not gonna lie, the track's in pretty bad shape. Past resurfacing at this point, like cleaning the surface, it really needs to be fully redone. It's something that, we're making sure is in our building condition survey to hopefully replace in a few years once we have a bigger capital project. But it is concerning. I'm not sure, I haven't heard anything from Mr. Zolkowski or Mrs. Levitt, other than that it's concerning and that it could be dangerous because it actually gets pretty slippery when wet. I have not heard if we are able or unable to actually play or run on it.
that's a concern, safety wise. Thank you.
To be determined.
Transportation report, any questions we need to address on that?
Did Joe get his full complement of drivers?
He does. He sent me, I was hoping that a little bit later, some of those questions would have come up. You know that on our website, I posted what it takes for us to be able to bring kids back to school. On the surface, 6 feet to 3 seems simple. Good, we can do that, let's bring it in. You're listening to Crystal talking about scheduling that and what we're going to do to try to cover all of these increases in kids in. Yes, we want them here, but we want it done correctly. Transportation and food service, as you remember, me telling you, those were probably the 2 biggest concerns according to Joe, if we put 31 students on a bus, he can handle what we have as long as he adds a bus run. And he has a bus, and he has a driver. Now, that would tell me that means he's taking a spare guy and running, but we can get them in here. So it looks to me, and we meet tomorrow, that's basically our whole cabinet meeting tomorrow is based on trying to bring kids back to school. So it sounds to me from what he sent to me, of course, he's at that meeting tomorrow, we may have pretty much solid transportation. Now we're working on cafeteria, you know, we're gonna have to take half of the auxiliary gym over between the two cafeterias and set up tables and desks and whatever, because if Crystal brings, let's say, the whole 6th grade over, she needs room, because 6 feet did not go to 3 feet in the cafeteria. So we have to stay 6 feet there. So that part hasn't changed. The other part that it's done is we can't, if we shorten the 3 feet in the classroom, and we have to be 6 feet to eat, then we've got to take half the kids out of the classroom, what are we going to do with them? Why, half of them are eating. So obviously now, our best bet is to try to bring them all over to cafeteria. But it's time and what we can do. So that's a major obstacle that we're working with right now. So our goal is certainly to bring all kids back to school, but it's going to take time. It's going to take careful planning. And the other thing that I'm starting to see, just even in my wife's school, if you have a COVID case, you're now doubling or tripling the amount of people that you're putting out of the building in quarantine. So, although we want them all back, there will be some inherent danger in bringing all kids back to school. As it is now, something happens, we have the potential to only lose half the school. And now you could have the potential to lose the whole school, but we'll deal with that. That's not the reason not to bring kids back, but it's a factor. So that's where we are with bringing kids back. We've had a couple of other ideas thrown around. As you know, Bristol was able to bring the kindergartners back, but their classrooms are twice the size of everybody else's. So they can even stay 6 feet and still bring the kids in. So we're doing the best we can. I did ask the community to try to bear with us. I realize it's frustrating. It's certainly frustrating at our end too. But that's our goal, and as we move through this process, I will keep you informed every Friday.
Is there another question? Need a motion to accept the reports as presented?
So moved.
All in favor? Old business? None. New business? Resolution to establish tax tertiary reserve fund and transfer funds to said tax tertiary reserve fund.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Resolution to authorize transfer of funds to transportation vehicle reserve fund.
First.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution to authorize transfer of funds to capital reserve fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did you get that, Sandy? Approved trade-in purchase that we talked about last month of the tractor.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved MOA, DCS, and DTA 2020-2021 sports season and payments of stipends.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Cooperative bidding resolution with the RIC for the 2021-2022 school year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Now the moment you've been waiting for. construction bids for the capital project. We need to acknowledge withdrawal of the bid by the one contractor.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We need to award the bids as presented in the memo.
So moved.
You were looking at the general contractor with HRTD and Dick Alexander and all those guys. There was quite a discrepancy between Bee's and we're talking like $160-some thousand. How can there be that much discrepancy between those two bids?
I don't think that the general contractors, there were two bids that were higher than the GC department, and I don't think that they really looked at the documents and assumed that the asbestos was under their contract. It's not, it's not a mechanical contract.
Okay, so that's why Bee's is,
Yep.
so the mechanics, their Schmaltz is going to take care
Yeah,
of that.
coordination is required between the mechanical contractor and the asbestos abater.
Okay.
So we wanted to make sure that the abatement was assigned to the mechanical.
There was some mention about the extent of the asbestos removal was changing? Or did I miss?
We're going to explore whether we can save some money.
Okay.
By asking the abatement contractor for any voluntary comments that they might have. And we're going to do the same with the mechanical as well.
And I see that our guys are going to do the controls.
No, we just-
we're holding on control to award
Oh, that's
that.
right, that's what Scott said. To a later date.
Correct.
So in the final analysis, when we vote on the bids tonight, the board will vote the bids to these contractors, how many heaters will we finally be able to replace? 8. And we're down to 8. 36.
36 originally, some of those were hot water units that we were bolting to. There are an additional, my plans in my head, probably another dozen or so that are steam that we'd like to do eventually. We knew that we were up against the wall running into this, so we structured the bid to be able to make sure we could award the base bid with what we had, and then create a loop around so that if and when there's some additional funds available on a onesie-twosie basis, the work can be done by the school team staff.
So us guys had better save every part and all those dismantling.
We're taking care of the worst ones
Yes.
and the oldest ones, so hopefully that gets rid of the not being able to find parts issue. But they can save what's coming out and cannibalize those for other units in the future.
So the oldest unit, once the project is done, will be what age vintage?
60s.
Hey, we're gaining 10 years on it.
Yeah, 57 years old. Older than something.
I'm not sure your wife's guy, or smart ass.
No, I don't think it that way.
That's why they structured it where the loop's gonna be in there, so it's a lot easier to update the rest of them as we go along, 1 year, 2, you know.
Yeah, so we've got the main distribution piping going around with branches off of it next to each collection. And the valve that connects each one of those branches.
I feel a little guilty because when we went and presented this to town hall meetings, it was going to be replacing 36.
No, you never said that.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
You never said that.
You know me, Mr. Schmidt, I don't give up very easily. We are still exploring other ways to get this project done in the next few years. Even though we have a short budget right now of $1 million, we are exploring other ways to get funds. Like Mr. Krieger mentioned earlier, we think this grant money might be able to go towards air ventilation, which would include these unit ventilators that we're putting into classrooms. So we could potentially get the rest of those units replaced within the next 2 years with the grant money.
The point I'm trying to make is that when we went out, I thought we projected the project.
No, it wasn't a huge number on the boilers.
We we identified them all, and said we're gonna try and.
36 as you replaced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had $1 million to do what we could do.
Right.
Okay.
You were just hoping.
I was
it.
The other thing too is from when you first planned this to the prices now, they've really increased.
Oh, yeah.
So they've done what they can to try to at least still get the 8 that we went into this thing with a year ago.
I just didn't want to declare a court of public opinion of stewards. When we didn't come up with a.
Well, it is disappointing, I wish I could have gotten more.
No, I'm not-
But, like,
I'm not
said-
saying-
Yeah, no, I don't think it that way.
That's why we've also talked about EPC, so even if it wasn't a grant, grant way of getting these units, we've talked about an energy performance contract that could help pay for some additional, so we got other means that we're exploring. It's just gonna take some time because we have many projects that we're working on here right now.
The main thing right now is to get all the piping.
Correct.
Because then we can just
Start with that.
little pieces or get them done through a grant, but we gotta get the major pipe that takes care of ultimately the whole project. And once that's in, then we're gonna be in much better shape.
As best as vacant, how much of the project, percentage-wise, would you say that takes up?
Maybe in the 15 to 20% range. That's quite extensive,
Quite a
yeah.
chunk.
Yeah. And that's why we're gonna talk with the paving contractor. There might be potential to eliminate doing some abatement down in the crawl space. If we can, that'll save some money, and maybe we can add on some of those alternates that we've got. We have 4 alternates, some are bigger chunks, and some are smaller chunks, because we knew that we could take little bites at a time. We like to do.
Is that versatile, business?
Honestly, I can't remember, so. Yeah, once it's over 1%, it's expensive, so.
Actually, I have to take it out.
And,
You can abandon it in place and manage it, and your asbestos is actually in very good shape because it's wrapped in bar paper generally. So it's not, fluffy stuff that floats all over. Yeah, but you just need to watch it and make sure that it doesn't become airborne.
Private.
So we have a motion, we need a second. All in favor? Thanks for sitting here.
thanks for paying
Potential revised reopening plan per new CDC guidelines. Was there any additional input? This was a separate email sent to us, it's not in your packet. It had highlighted sections with changes.
The other thing that we had to do as part of bringing more kids back to school was to revisit our reopening plan that we started with back in August, and ultimately got it approved after being a month for the community to be able to make any comments, and then put on the state website and on our website, which it is. So now in order to do the next step in this whole process, we needed to relook at our reopening plan to make some revisions, because obviously there's things that are different if you have more kids in school. So this is our draft for that. We've allowed the community to have a certain amount of time so far because it's on the website. And their Ruth created a survey that can go along with it, and it's really just 3-4 questions. But mainly there was a part on the bottom where they can make any comment they choose to type in. And once we get all of those, we can finish up on this and then have it ready to be put on the website for permanency. It was about 36 pages, and we had this done about Thursday or Friday, and I did not want Sandy making 7 copies of 36 pages and and then sending it out. So I said, let's just send it to them on email and take your time and read through it. So I hope you didn't mind that, so.
Thank you. Everybody got on the new email now, right? But
All right, if there's no questions or comments on that, we'll move on to the seeker that was added tonight. So this is for the addition of wind attachment strips to the perimeter of the auditorium roof and addition of acoustic absorption to high school gymnasium. Questions? If there are no questions, need a motion to approve this resolution as presented.
How many feet? Which one? The absorption or the
The roof?
roof?
The borders.
Yeah, basically what we're doing is taking 2 strips of metal and covering the entire perimeter of the auditorium. No, up on the roof itself. When I was up last summer with DCS walkthrough, I noticed that the auditorium roof is billowing a little bit. And I'm worried that over time, come further and further from the perimeter in, and eventually blow off. So these strips will hold that down as the wind goes over the corner of the building, will detach to the roof.
So they're going on top of it.
Go on top of the roof, and then rubber will go over that.
Oh, so you got a little bit of water thing. Heated rubber, or you just put it down like a nasty thing?
Nasty. It's a 2 ounces today, so it's good.
Second.
All in favor?
Can I ask you a question, Sure. I just wanted to ask what a 12131 was for a student. I've never heard of that one before.
So it is 12 students, a teacher, 3 aides, and then some sort of assistant for
That's, I've never heard that breakdown before. Is it common?
That's a life skills program.
Okay. Thank you.
Information only? Anything additional, Mr. Krieger?
The only thing I'll say is I don't have, or haven't figured out the official word yet, but we did get something back from state ed about the project up at the bus garage, and it looks like it's been approved. They just need one more thing.
No, the one more thing was earlier in the week, it was approved as of today.
Yeah, so then that should allow us to go ahead and get that started as well. So it's been a long wait, but
Which one is this?
it's the lifted garage. So our emergency from back in October is finally taken care of in April. It wasn't an emergency, I guess, the state had.
It kind of got lost. We called them.
With that, we'll move on to board forum. Mr. Maxwell.
So I'd like to congratulate again the people that got tenure tonight, including Ruth. And some of you may not have experienced this, but for some reason, our new email system does not work on Android phones or tablets. So Randall spent time in my house yesterday trying to figure it out, and it can't. And we have to go through the rec and maybe Samsung phone company and Google to fix that, because otherwise I cannot get an email from school unless I have my computer with me. And I'm sure other staff members here are saying, oh, you can't get it either. And what it does is it asks for permission for stuff and the circle goes around. It's been going around on my phone since yesterday. So, we're working on that. And I asked earlier about the lottery money, and some people might not realize this, but we do get like $1.6 million from New York State Lottery, which is part of our state aid, but So people are asking, whatever happened to that lottery money? We do get money every year in Dolgeville, New York, 1.6 million, which is a big feature to have on the budget. And that's it for me.
Julie?
Congratulations to all the tenured teachers in the group as well. Congratulations to the health seniors. I want to thank Mrs. Christman, sorry. For getting the kindergarten back full time and working on the driver's ed and anything and everything that we can get started. And thank you all for all of your hard work and all your perseverance through all this. It makes a huge difference in my house, and I really appreciate everything that you do.
Is it me?
Go for it.
I just wanted to congratulate Ruth and everybody else who's been tenure. Glad to hear the driver's ed coming back. Glad to hear we were able to go 3 feet, and glad to hear everybody's working hard still.
Didn't give up that.
Welcome back.
Very little, big book.
I am so
Glad I'm ahead of you.
so glad. I'm so glad to come and see everybody. There's no place like home. I want to congratulate Ruth and all the rest of the tenures. It's a great accomplishment and having the back. Okay, I do want to say 2 things. First of all, I got to see Group A and Group B in kindergarten come together. Now that was something, right? We had 8 from one, 8 from the other, and put all 16 into your kindergarten class. They are phenomenal. Those kids wear their masks all day. The only time they take off their mask is when they're having their breakfast and when they're having their lunch. If they're sitting there and they have to go to the bathroom, that mask goes on, they raise their hand, they go to the bathroom, with their mask on, they wash their hands, and they go back to their seat. They have adjusted so well, and it was a privilege to drop in the different kindergarten classes. The second thing I would talk to Mr. Krieger about, I came up one morning, 7:30, and I sat in my car, and I wanted to see the buses come up. I had to see in the morning the buses come. I see them at night. I was up 1 minute. That was like clockwork. The tank just got off, they went around. Tank just got off. I had 9 minutes, you told me 8 minutes.
So we got 8 minutes.
I was off 1 minute. Just like a clock, everybody should be proud of themselves. The bus drivers, Mr. Staff, the administration is out there, the teachers are out there to help. Absolutely wonderful. You have to come, even in the afternoon, to stop and see this, because it is amazing.
That's the best time, because it's a parade of all the elementary kids. Keep going, and then they just duck in when they get to their bus. That's the best time to come.
So, that's it for me. I'm very short.
Wow.
Bye.
No things too long. I just want to say, Commissioner Lou, you're a great asset to the program for the number of years. And thanks to Mr. Craig and the staff, really give you guys a lot of respect. All of you. What you put up with and try to keep the kids and everybody, children and the same. And I also want to shout out to the parents. I don't think we get enough accolades to the parents who are dealing with this too. I know there's parents here with kids, but the parents out there that are working jobs, trying to educate their kids, and make this whole thing a viable success. Just want to say thank you to them. Thank you congratulations to all the tenure appointments, graduating seats, and also thank you to Eric. Having 2.5 hours to put up with us. Thank you. Thanks for your support.
I'll say thank you again for staying awake. Mary Lou, it's so good to have you back. I just would like to use this opportunity for Craig to get it back together, because in 2 months, you're the person now who has to give everyone gifts at every meeting. Since Mary talked on.
Well, yeah. All right, I'll let my wife know.
love seeing all the activities going on with kids, and I know you guys do too. I love hearing our staff and you guys, and even in Joe's report saying, I can't wait to go back to normal, whatever that feels like now. And I just want to cheer you all on and try to make that happen, and everything you're doing to try to get all of our kids back. One other thing, I had a question. So Mr. Gilbert is full-time with us too, right? So can we add a report to our meeting? So we can hear from Mr. Gilbert maybe next month?
Certainly
I'll
can.
think about that. But thank you all for everything you're doing, and
I would just like to say all the same things all over again. Congratulations to all our staff that was granted tenure tonight. It's a great accomplishment. It's great for the district. Thank you to the administration, staff, support staff, parents for supporting us as we move through this constant evolution of what's allowed and what's not allowed. And with that, we need a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Anybody have any questions before the principals leave on the CSBA? Michelle stuff. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
See you in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys.
got the wide angle lens.
Billy Joe's working in the cafeteria, huh? Billy Joe?
Really?
Yeah, she got her food service. That's good. Look right through all that. She's a part of it. Would anybody be horribly disappointed if I didn't come to the senior thing tomorrow?
What time is that?
I would be horrible.
No,
My girls, I am juggling like crazy this week.
No.
For 2 nights in a row, to get my girls where they need to go in football, and blah, blah.
I'll send you the link so you can watch that.
I will be in the car from 5 to 6 and be able to get here at 6:30.
Fine. Oh, well, for 6.
The meeting is 6:30. 5 to 6, I'm juggling both my girls and 2 other people to try to get them where they need to go. Although I'd love to be here. I'm sorry.
Take care of your family.
I had to.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the CSE, CPSE minutes and recommendations.
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve 17B, 1 through 11 as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Motion to approve non-resident student request for school year 21-22.
So moved.
All in favor?
Who seconded that?
Really?
Thank you.
Upcoming meeting, tomorrow night, special meeting, Bolton Budget Bowl, 6:30 after the senior recognition dinner. Budget hearing May 11th, budget vote May 18th, regular meeting May 19th. If there's nothing else, in the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?